students, this video is based on the fourth part of the chapter Nelson Mandela, A Long Walk to Freedom. In the previous three videos, I have explained you the chapter. Now in this video, I am going to explain you the question answers of the chapter. So let's move to the first question. Where did the ceremonies take place? Can you name any public buildings in India that are made of sandstone? Answer. The ceremonies took place in the lovely sandstone theatre formed by the Union Buildings in Pretoria. Amber Fort, Red Fort, Purana Killa and the Secretariat Building, New Delhi are some public buildings in India that are made of sandstone. Next question. Can you say how 10th May is an autumn day in South Africa? Answer. 10th May is an autumn day in South Africa because South Africa is situated in the southern hemisphere where the seasons occur opposite to the northern hemisphere. Hence, the month of May is an autumnal month there just before winter sets in from June. Next question. At the beginning of his speech, Mandela mentions an extraordinary human disaster. What does he mean by this? What is the glorious human achievement he speaks of at the end? Answer. By an extraordinary human disaster, he means the South Africa's policy of apartheid. The glorious human achievement he speaks of at the end is the liberation from the oppression of one race by another, a common victory for justice, peace and human dignity. Next question. What does Mandela thank the international leaders for? Answer. Mandela thanks the international leaders for having come to take possession with the people of South Africa of a common victory for justice, for peace and for human dignity. Next, what ideals does he set out for the future of South Africa? The ideals that Mandela sets out for the future of South Africa are to liberate all his people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender and other discrimination. Next, what does military generals do? How has their attitude changed and why? Answer. The highest generals of the South African Defence Force and Police, their chests bedecked with ribbons and medals from days gone by, saluted Mandela and pledged their loyalty. Not so many years ago, they would have arrested him. Their attitude has changed because Mandela is now the president of South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. Next question. Why were two national anthems sung? The two national anthems were sung to display the end of segregation and discrimination on the basis of color. Next, how does Mandela describe the systems of government in his country in the first decade and in the final decade of the 20th century? Answer. Mandela describes the systems of government in his country in the first decade as the white-skinned peoples of South Africa patching up their differences and erecting a system of racial domination against the dark-skinned people of their own land. The structure they created formed the basis of one of the harshest, most inhuman societies the world has ever known. But in the final decade of the 20th century, that system had been overturned forever and replaced by one that recognized the rights and freedoms of all people regardless of the color of their skin. Next, what does courage mean to Mandela? Answer. To Mandela, courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers his fear. Next question. Which does he think is natural, to love or to hate? Answer. He thinks it is natural to love. Next, what twin obligations does Mandela mention? Answer. Mandela mentions the twin obligations to his family, to his parents, to his wife and children, and an obligation to his people, his community, his country. In a civil and human society, each man is able to fulfill both obligations according to his own inclinations and abilities. Next, what did being free man mean to Mandela as a boy and as a student? How does he contrast these transitory freedoms with the basic and honorable freedoms? Answer. Mandela says that he was born free in every way that he could know. Free to run in the fields near his mother's hut, free to swim in the clear stream that ran through his village, free to roast mealies under the stars and ride the broad backs of slow-moving bulls. As long as he obeyed his father and abided by the customs of his tribe, he was not troubled by the laws of man or God. Next question. Later on, I am continuing the same answer. Later on, however, he began to learn that his boyhood freedom was an illusion, that his freedom had already been taken from him. It is then that he began to hunger for freedom. At first, as a student, he wanted freedom only for himself. The transitory freedoms of being able to stay out at night, read what he pleased and go where he chose. As a young man in Johannesburg, he yearned for the basic and honorable freedoms of achieving his potential, of earning his keep, of marrying and having a family, the freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. Next question. Does Mandela think the oppressor is free? Why or why not? Answer. No, Mandela does not think that the oppressor is free. He thinks that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow-mindedness. The oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity. Next question. Why did such a large number of international leaders attend the inauguration? What did it signify the triumph of? Answer. Such a large number of international leaders attended the inauguration to pay their respects to Nelson Mandela, who had become South Africa's first black president after more than 3 centuries of white rule. Mr. Mandela's African National Congress ANC party won 252 of the 400 seats in the first democratic elections of South Africa's history. The attendance of such a large number of international leaders signified the triumph of the black people of South Africa in ending the policy of apartheid. For decades, the Union buildings in Pretoria were the seat of white supremacy, but now it was the site of a rainbow gathering of different colors and nations for the installation of South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. Next question. What does Mandela mean when he says he is simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before him? Answer. The day of celebrating freedom from apartheid had come about through the unimaginable sacrifices of thousands of African people, people whose suffering and courage can never be counted or repaid. The day had arrived because of the relentless fight by the patriots who gave up their lives for the cause. Now that South Africa had found liberation, Mandela feels that he is simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before him, an end product of their brave struggle. Next question. Would you agree that the depths of oppression create heights of character? How does Mandela illustrate this? Can you add your own examples to this argument? Answer. Depths of oppression do create heights of character. Mandela illustrates this with examples of Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, Chief Luthuli, Yusuf Dadoo, Bram Fisher and Robert Sobukwe. Men of extraordinary courage, wisdom and generosity, whose struggle against apartheid gave hope and strength to thousands of his people. Next, how did Mandela's understanding of freedom change with age and experience? Answer. When Mandela was young, freedom to him meant to be free to run in the fields near his mother's hut, swim in the clear stream that ran through his village, roast mealies under the stars, and ride the broad backs of slow-moving bulls. When he was a student, he wanted freedom only for himself, the transitory freedoms of being able to stay out at night, read what he pleased, and go where he chose. However, as he grew older and more experienced, he realized that the hunger for his own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of his people to lead an honorable life of dignity and self-respect. Next, how did Mandela's hunger for freedom change his life? Answer. Mandela's hunger for freedom and his desire for the freedom of his people to live their lives with dignity and self-respect transformed him from a frightened young man into a bold one. It drove a law-abiding attorney to become a criminal, turned a family-loving husband into a man without a home, and forced a life-loving man to live like a monk. He found that he could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedoms he was allowed when he knew his people were not free. So this was all about the question answers of the chapter Nelson Mandela. In the next video, I'll come up with some other chapter. Thank you.